If you really sit with it for a while, the whole situation around Google isn't just about one issue. It's like multiple layers stacking on top of each other. Open source, control, trust, messaging, and then the legal pressure building in the background. And the deeper you go, the less it looks like a clean, good versus bad story, and more like a company slowly shifting its priorities while still trying to sound like it hasn't. Start again with open source, but this time, think about the philosophy behind it. Open source isn't just about releasing code. It's about decentralization, community ownership, and the idea that no single entity has total control. Google built a lot of its reputation on supporting that world. Engineers loved them for it. Developers trusted them. And to be fair, they did contribute massively. Projects like Kubernetes, Chromium, and TensorFlow changed entire industries. But here's where the shift starts to feel real. Control didn't disappear. It just became more subtle. Take Chromium. It's open source, yeah. Anyone can technically build on it. But in reality, most browsers built on Chromium end up aligning closely with Google's direction because Google is the primary contributor. They set the pace, they influence the standards, and they decide what gets prioritized. So even though it's open, the center of gravity is still Google. That creates a situation where the web itself, how browsers behave, what gets supported, starts leaning heavily toward one company's vision. Then there's Android, which is probably the clearest example of this duality. The base layer, AOSP, Android Open Source Project, is open. But the version most people actually experience is tightly wrapped in proprietary services. Google Play, Maps, Gmail, AP. Is that developers depend on. If a manufacturer wants to compete seriously, they almost have to partner with Google. So the open version exists, but the useful version is controlled. That's not accidental, that's strategy. And it's not just about control, it's about dependency. Google releases tools that become so widely adopted that entire ecosystems form around them. Then over time, they either pivot, restrict, or sometimes abandon them. Developers have seen this pattern enough times that it has a nickname: the Google Graveyard. Projects get hyped, gain traction, and then suddenly lose support when they don't align with business goals anymore. That creates a kind of quiet fear in the developer community. Because open source is supposed to be stable ground, you build on it expecting it to last. But when the main backer is known for sudden shifts, that stability starts to feel temporary. Now layer in the communication side of things. Google is extremely good at framing. When they talk about privacy, for example, they emphasize user controls, transparency tools, and security improvements. And those things are real. They exist. But critics point out that the core business model, advertising powered by user data, hasn't fundamentally changed. So you end up with messaging that highlights protection while the underlying system still depends on data collection. It's not always false, but it can feel incomplete. Like telling the part of the story that sounds reassuring while leaving out the part that raises harder questions. This kind of tension shows up in product decisions too. Features get introduced under the banner of user benefit, but sometimes they also happen to reinforce Google's ecosystem dominance. It's not necessarily deception, it's alignment of incentives. But from the outside, it can look like one thing is being said while another is being optimized for. And that's exactly where regulators step in. The legal pressure on Google right now isn't random, it's been building for years. In the US, cases like United States versus Google LLC are going straight at the core of Google's dominance in search. The argument isn't just Google is big, it's that Google has used its position to stay the default. Deals with companies like Apple Inc. to remain the default search engine on devices are a major focus. Because if most users never change defaults, controlling that starting point basically locks in market share. And then there's the advertising side, which is even more complex. Google operates across the entire ad stack. Tools for advertisers, tools for publishers, and the exchange that connects them. That level of vertical integration raises concerns about fairness. Regulators argue that it gives Google the ability to influence outcomes in ways competitors simply can't match. Europe has already been more aggressive here. The European Commission has fined Google billions over the years for antitrust violations, especially around Android and search practices. Those cases set a precedent. Governments are willing to step in when they believe one company has too much control over digital markets. And this isn't slowing down. If anything, scrutiny is increasing globally.